Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the HomeHappy Podcast, episode 5. Welcome, Dallas. Welcome, Kalinka. We've got an interesting topic, and I'm going to throw it up there right away. Many people, they want to buy a home. They want to get into a home, or they want to shift homes, whatever. But none of us want to be home poor. And what that really means is you still want to have a life. You don't want to feel like all you're doing is making your mortgage payment and not surviving. So let's throw it out to the group. Dallas, what are some tips you can give people, whether they're first time or moving from one house to another, from a condo to a townhouse, whatever? Are there things that you can think of right away that people can do to kind of mitigate that and make life a little better once they move?
It just comes down to common sense. And to me, it's buying within your means. Just because, when they talk to you, Mike, and they say, you're good for this amount, doesn't mean we got to go that far, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that seems to be the real big one. And I know we always look at the top of our price range, and let's face it, if you're looking at a house at 900 grand and 1.2 million, you are going to like that $1.2 million house. So, let's just make sure it works for you and your budget.
Yeah. And I would add, managing your own emotions is a big part of that. Right? Like, I'm sure you can maybe speak to that part of it.
I think the big thing I say is, sorry, Kalinka, is you just can't go look at puppies. Like, let's go look at a puppy. Forget it. You're taking the puppy home. So if it's kind of at that price point that you're going to be super tight, let's not even go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And a couple as well, right? Sometimes the wife will want a different budget than the husband. And so I think the two of them speaking and going to see a home with the same budget in mind is really important here, because it is emotional, like you said, Mike. So knowing that budget and both of them speaking to themselves is really good. And sometimes on a pre-approval, let's say you're pre-approved for $700,000. It doesn't mean that you need to go all the way to a $700,000 house, and it could be any budget. But I'm just saying, throwing a number out there. So really going down to the cost of how much that property is going to really cost you a month, and everything that's involved is really key here to know your expenses and your budget, and going into a purchase that is comfortable for you.
Yeah, and I think honestly, if there's two of you, you've got to have the tough discussion before you go looking at puppies.
Yeah, totally.
You've got to know, like, I know that you like this, and I know I want this, but we have to compromise on something. It's hard, but I think it's so much better if you do it ahead of time, because if you show up in the most expensive place, you're going to see things you're going to want, and it's hard to walk yourself back from that. I think one of the other things that people can do is, when they're looking at the specific real estate, try to figure out ways that you can save money moving into that place. Like, is it on the transit? Is it, does it mean we can get away with one car instead of having two? There's other ways. Is there a suite, or is there other possibilities that we could add revenue streams or things like that? I'm sure, Dallas, you run into that quite often.
Absolutely. Even just going into your phone and canceling all these subscriptions you have that are 10, like I did it, and I'm like, where is this $100 going that I'm spending on the apps that I've never opened?
And to that point, one of the biggest things I think people, and I've learned this through business and different things, little numbers add up, right? We all notice, oh my God, $25,000, that's a lot of money. But it's the hundreds and 50s and 20s that all are, especially in this day and age where everything is a streaming cost or a monthly cost. It's so important to stay on top of that stuff, because if it's all going out the back door, you're going to be poor regardless of what house you buy. So, we all have to make decisions and decide on what's important, but I think being aware of everything is so important. And I know it sounds really boring and 1930s, but a budget is super cool, and make it a fun thing. Make it a way to kind of, to win at things. And we saved an extra $400 this month. We can do this, or we can do that. And but it all goes to better planning, better communication, and understanding of your situation, I think.
And I'm terrible for it. Short-term gratitude, right? Let's just go buy that thing on Amazon.
Exactly. And there's other things like, don't go and buy a new car right when you're going to buy a house, or don't buy into those things that you think you need that you don't probably need. I mean, get excited about the new house, focus on that, and people
Mhm.
forget. I've seen people that move in and they have to buy a hose or they have to buy a lawnmower and all these simple little things that add up. And all of a sudden, they've moved in and they've racked up all their debts because they had to buy everything. And they
Yeah.
probably didn't need to buy everything instantly, but they did. And now they're dealing with side debts as well as the mortgage. And that's a dangerous place to be. So
Yeah.
it sounds boring. I know I sound like somebody's mother, but I mean, it's just the truth of the matter. Like, it's just so easy to get carried away with things. And I even talk about when in construction mortgages, when people are talking about building, buying and building a house, and unless you're in a really comfortable financial position, I just don't recommend it, because it's so hard to choose. Would you like this doorknob or that doorknob? Well, you always want the better one.
Yeah.
Like,
You're running over budget.
Yeah,
Every builder I talk to
Mhm.
says you're going over 15 to
I've
20.
never had a construction mortgage that came in under budget or on budget, ever. So yeah, I always say it's a sure way to divorce. So I'd rather people not do that. Yes, you end up with a great house, but generally it's going to be so expensive that you can't afford to live there, unless you're in a better
Totally.
position in life, and that's fine. But yeah. So
Yeah.
any other things you guys want to bring up, Clinka? Do you have any other
Yeah,
tips?
to your point, Mike, keep your emergency funds strong, right? Life changes. You might afford it right now, and the monthly payments might be great with that mortgage, but life changes, job changes, home repairs, interest rate hikes, or whatever that may be. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be anything big, but I think having an emergency fund in place is something that can alleviate some of that stress for you instead of being tied up, right? So just another small tip out there.
And an emergency fund is not a line of credit. There's so many people banks to sell that so hard. Oh, just in case of emergency, because they know you're going to max it out as soon as you get it. Most people. I mean, 98% of Canadians have lines of credit and they're not paid off, and they're not meant to be
Mhm.
operated that way. Except the banks know that, and they offer them because they want you to max them out, so they make more interest. And
Yeah.
it's fight for yourself. Don't give in to those things. I'd much rather see
Totally.
people who save $10,000 and have that as an emergency fund than having a 20,000 line of credit that you end up maxed out. We call it the never plan. You never pay it off.
100%. Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
One thing
And I
I
think-
do
Go
sorry,
ahead,
Mike,
Del.
is, like Tiff Macklin, the Bank of Canada governor, saying, jobs are up. And I think to myself, that's because people are having to get second and third jobs. So these
true.
job numbers
Mhm.
aren't, I don't consider them real. Not to mention, in the last 5 years, 45% of them have been in the public sector, which means government jobs.
Yeah.
So, you want to be able to live in your house, not just sleep in it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very true. And
That's so
there's
true.
a lot of and a lot more of those jobs. The private ones are a lot of service jobs and lower paying jobs that are being created. So yeah, and there's so many people, you're right, having to take second jobs just to make everything work. And I'd rather try and help people find ways to have a suite or have a carriage house and
Mhm.
different revenue streams that can help them, but also you're helping somebody else find a place to live. So
Yeah.
there's positive ways to work with this too. So I think having really honest discussions with you and your partner, first of all, and then having honest expectations, reality, because of your budget, those are two huge things that you can do to protect yourself from those. And we're early in 2025, and we know that there's a ton of people with mortgages coming due that are going to have significant impact, like significant increases. So if you didn't, if you were lucky enough to lock in at a very low rate, hopefully you were increasing your payments as you moved along to get used to it. We call that payment shock. And it's very dangerous just to leave it and not raise your payment until 5 years is up. And all of a sudden, oh my God, your payment's 50% higher than it was. And now you have to deal with it. So don't stick your head in the sand, talk to an expert and get your plan in place before it comes due. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, speak to your team of professionals or whoever that professional may be, and brainstorm those numbers before you go into something. You have no idea what those numbers are gonna be. So,
Yeah. And have a plan. Maybe you have to sell. I mean, some people, that is reality, and maybe it makes sense to do that sooner than later, and have a chat with somebody like Dallas, who's an expert on that area, and see if that makes sense, that maybe you can make money off that as opposed to trying to suffer through a payment you can't afford, or who knows. I think just being honest with yourself and your partner is one of the biggest benefits you can have, as opposed to just ignoring everything and waiting till it hits you.
Yeah, I had a situation. I'll tell you a story I did this week where I had a home that they were looking to sell with a carriage home, and mom's in the carriage home. Dad comes and stays in the RV for 6 months in the summer. They still have a daughter in grade 11, and they said, we're looking to sell. Like, our life's changing, but we still need some stability with the mother and the father, and the daughter. And I said, it's not in your best interest. It's to sell at this time, because if we're going to sell and say that, the couple's breaking up, so, the husband needs to be paid out, sometimes it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
And especially if you're going to be, going to a home that's $1 million and your other home is 1.5, I'd rather see that basement get rented out to students.
Yeah. Yeah. Find a different solution than the ones that you think of. And that's where having the right people around you, I think, helps a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think it's a kind of a sad topic, but it's the reality of life, and I think there's nothing wrong with dealing with those things. I think we'll wrap it there, and unless anybody has any further things to add.
Well, at the end of the day, sometimes you're taking that weight off your shoulder, and we've never had an opportunity where people aren't happy at the end.
Yeah, good point. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us on the HomeHappy Podcast. We hope you liked it. We hope you subscribe and like it. And we'd love to see a comment from you for a further different topic or further to this topic. And anyways, thank you.
We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.